Hello and welcome to the This Works For Me Virtual Summit. I'm your host, Fernfaith Watson. I am the director of the Faculty Development Center at Murray State University. Are you looking for a strategy to help your online students manage their time efficiently, work better collaboratively, and exert more effort in their work? Well, our guest today, Dr. Lara Gray, will be providing you with some strategies to do so. Dr. Gray, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Great. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Yes, my name is Lara Gray, and I was born in Louisiana, raised on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and lived abroad for little over 8 years. We lived in Belize and also in the Yucatan in Mexico. And now we are recently back in the States, living in the Boise, Idaho area. And my background is in education. I have 20 plus years experience as an educator. I worked for several years as a high school English and drama teacher. Even more years than that as an elementary school counselor. I have 2 counseling degrees and am certified with National Board for Certified Counselors. And my PhD is in instructional design with an emphasis in online learning.
Wow, and I know that you have a wealth of experience in online learning. In fact, I met you at a workshop that you were facilitating. So I'm really pleased that you have taken some time to share with our viewers just a little bit about online learning. But we are promising a lot. You're promising to help their students to manage their time efficiently, work collaboratively, and exert more effort in their course. So we're looking forward to this strategy. Now, what got you interested in using these strategies and how have they worked for you?
I first took an interest when I was working on my dissertation, and my dissertation ended up being about conceptualizing time management as a construct of self-regulated learning with college freshmen taking online classes. And what I was looking for, other than the big duh, just do time management techniques help with grades? Yes, of course they do. I was also looking to see if there was a difference between men and women and how women utilize those strategies, whether it was differently from men. And there was a significant difference there. Women tend to be better time managers, but I think to a large degree they have to be. The other thing I looked at was traditional versus non-traditional students. And what I wanted to see was if there was a difference in the way they managed their time and if that translated to how they performed in online courses. I was positive that non-traditional students would be better at it. Since, you figure they're grown, they have families, they have jobs, but in fact, there was really no significant difference there in how that worked. I went on in my teaching career in higher ed to try to incorporate some time management strategies into the courses that I both had done some design work for, and especially into the online courses I have taught, because in my research, I have found out that the vast majority of our students, whether they are high school students becoming college freshmen or even graduate students, do not come to these classes, do not come to school with adequate time management strategies. It is not something that's taught in high school. It is not something looked at so much in the first year of college or university life. And very often it's not something they're taught at home.
So based on your research, I know you mentioned graduate students. What types of students are typically poor managers of their time?
Short answer, most of them across the spectrum.
Mm.
And it's not even because they just don't have a clue about how to do that. They want to manage their time well. They'd like to. They acknowledge that they're not good at it. They just simply have not been given the tools to do it properly.
Mm. So what do you think, why do you think so many students come to the online course not having proper time management techniques?
I think one of the reasons is the pretty much global perception of what online learning is and what it will be like. I get asked all the time when I introduce myself to people and tell them what I do for a living. The first question people ask is, well, do you like record your lectures online, or do you meet by Skype and lecture? And, the word lecture is always in there. And then when I say, there are no lectures, we have a lot of learning take place without any lecturing, and most of this is done asynchronously. It's not everybody being online at the same time. And I mean, you can just sort of see people's eyes glaze over like deer in the headlights. So not only does the general public have that perception, but that translates to their children and their brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews who are students coming into the online arena in a college or university setting. And what happens is, for starters, they think the online courses will be easier.
Mhm.
And I know you know that.
Mhm.
And what happens is they very quickly realize that that's not the case.
Mhm.
It's harder because they have really got to be on top of their game, and they have got to possess these self-regulated learning characteristics, um, and really an internal drive. In online learning, what you get out of it is largely based on intrinsic motivation
Mhm.
rather than extrinsic motivation. And they simply don't have the skills to do that. I believe that public schools right now are so caught up in the testing and all the high stakes testing and accountability
Mhm.
that, to a large degree, A, teachers don't have time,
Mhm.
and B, maybe administrators have forgotten that there are basic life skills that need to be taught. It's not just about, cramming and teaching and hoping somebody passes the math exam at the end of the year. Um, but things like this and the self-regulated learning skills, especially time management, have sort of fallen out of fashion, and that contributes to the problem.
Mhm. So could you help us understand what's the process of incorporating time management in a curriculum or in a course?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is to build certain things into that course. Instructional designers, course developers need to understand that there are many, many free resources out there that can easily be incorporated into an online course. And even if your instructional designer or course developer or your subject matter expert or whoever hasn't put those things into a course that you inherit, it's extremely easy to add these. One of these is a calendar feature. And I know that, most schools have a calendar feature, but I'm talking more user-friendly things.
Um,
Calendly has a free version
mhm.
that can be put in specifically for students. Google Calendar
Mhm.
can be put in. Um, Evernote for making lists and keeping track of things. All of these are free. And I think if features like this are built in to begin with, and students see that those things are there, maybe under their own heading when they go onto that course page, and most importantly, that the instructor holds a meeting, a webinar, call it what you will, the first week of class, and says, look, we have these features, and in this course, we are going to use them.
Mhm.
This is how you use them, and I will be checking periodically to make sure you are using these.
Mhm.
And if this is done across the board, for example, if an entire department or an entire school were to adopt this, students would automatically know in each class, hey, I have to put these due dates on my Calendly calendar. I have to map out on my Google Calendar when I'm going to work on these assignments. On my Evernote app, I need to make lists of what's due when and make outlines and strategize how I'm going to get there. You can even incorporate something like Trello
Mhm.
into a course rather than telling students, okay, these are your groups and use Skype or WhatsApp or whatever to work in your groups. No, if you do a master Trello board and keep all those groups, separate groups in Trello, not only do students have one go-to place to
Mm.
collaborate and meet and interact with each other, but you as the instructor can monitor these things. You can go in anytime and make sure that's happening and
Mhm.
stay on top of it. And I think it's only when we do things like this and make it a part of the curriculum, make it an expectation rather than an option, do we teach students how to use these tools and better manage their time.
Mhm. So could you help us understand how have these strategies been working for you specifically in your
These have worked beautifully for me.
Mhm.
In addition to the resources I mentioned,
Mhm.
I also have a webinar app where I can create great webinars just through Zoom, okay? Just through Zoom, beautiful webinars. And I can go in and edit if I need to, just like you're probably going to do with this,
Mhm.
and have a way of communicating, number one. And with any online course, there has got to be some synchronous activity.
Mhm.
You cannot expect to run a 13, 15, 16, 8 weeks, however long it is, online course without ever holding any synchronous sessions. I say one per unit in the course is probably what you need to be doing in terms of how often. But if you do that and you incorporate these tools and make it the expectation, and in that initial meeting or webinar, teach your students, throw your screen up there, share your screen, say, this is how we do this, and
Mhm.
this is how you are going to do this in the course. And I've even gone so far as to make the use of those tools part of their grade, part of their participation grade.
Mhm.
And when you incorporate that, they know they have to do it. When you're putting a grade on it, it suddenly becomes really, really important and not just something extra we have to do in this course. Um, and I have found that easily north of 90% of my students have not only been able to incorporate those things, but they go on to use those skills in other courses. And overall, I used to think, boy, the quality of students we're getting it's gotten better. I don't know about that. I think students are students. I think you're going to get great students. I think you're going to get average students. I think you're going to get students who come with some deficiencies. But I have noticed in the last couple of years since I've been incorporating these things that my students interact more with each other. They
Mhm.
interact more with me, and their grades are better overall. And, we are here to set students up for success. So I say, let's truly set them up for success.
Wow. Have you ever gotten any feedback from students specifically related to these time management strategies that you have incorporated in the course?
Yes, and the initial feedback is always, I don't understand why we have to do this. This seems like something extra. Are we being graded on this? Is this required? Those same students at the end of the term will tell me, gosh, I didn't realize how much easier this has made things for me. It's so nice to have a visual. It's so nice to be able to cross things off. It's nice to have one place to communicate without trying to find people through Facebook or find them through email or on WhatsApp or on Skype or Zoom. You know, all of a sudden now we have one place to do all of this. And thank you. It has made my life so much easier.
Exactly, because you are saving them time in a sense. You're not only encouraging them to use the time management techniques, but you essentially, with the things that you have incorporated in the course, you are saving them time.
Right. And, you know, it goes back to working smarter, not harder, and front loading. When I do workshops on transitioning to online teaching, I always tell people it is so important to front load. It's going to take you more work in the beginning, but it will save you so much time in the end. And I think it does not only for our students, but for us as well.
Great. You have shared with us a number of strategies. And what would you say to our viewers who resonate with what you have shared, but they're still a little bit hesitant to try some of these techniques? What would be some first steps that they could take?
I would say, first of all, don't knock it till you've tried it. And well, that would be second. Really, the first thing I would say is don't make assumptions that your students come to class knowing how to do this. Do not assume anything. Don't assume that just because you're teaching a master's level or a doctoral level course that the students who walk into your classroom, not walk in, but you know, who log into your classroom, don't assume that they have these skills. Okay? Treat everybody as if they don't. And because everybody can learn something from this. And number two, the resources I've mentioned are free. Why not try them? Why not use them? Why not suggest them to the course designers and developers at your school? I mean, ultimately, what this does is lower attrition. Okay? If we keep students engaged, if students are performing better, if they are interacting with one another and not feeling so lonely, because, I mean, we know that online learning can be very lonely, we are combating student attrition. And that's, I mean, that's the big problem in online education. You know, there, I said it. We all know it, but that is the big problem. And I promise you, if you incorporate these things, it will reduce the attrition in your course.
Wow. Thank you very much for sharing those strategies. And I know you mentioned a few tools, some technology earlier. Are there any additional resources that you would recommend for our viewers to review? Or perhaps
I would say start with the free stuff. Start with Calendly, start with Google Calendar, start with Evernote, start with Trello, start with Zoom. Even if you end up paying $14.95 or $14.99 or however much it is a month for a Zoom subscription, what you will get back is more than its weight in money. So, you know, just try the free stuff. And if you like the free apps and the free resources and it works well, then branch out and look into the more sophisticated things. But I would say keep it simple.
Yeah,
especially at first.
Definitely. And I know that Dr. Gray, you will be having a list of these resources. And viewers, I will be providing a link to these resources in the video description. So I encourage you to check them out. I will check them out myself. And so Dr. Gray, thank you very, very much for taking the time to share with us today.
You're very welcome. I've enjoyed being here. Thank you for having me.
Great. And to our viewers, I encourage you to share this episode with others, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode of this virtual summit.
Thank you.
See you soon.